Welcome back to Reviews with Elaine, because I have opinions. Today's going to be a very special episode because it seems list videos are super popular right now, and I'm running behind because my life is in chaos. But I'm going to make a quick list video of my 5 favorite books that I've read this year. Although this year is a bit negotiable, I'm going with the videos that came out this year, some of which I actually read last year, but it's fine. Are these the best books I've read this year? Not always. I will admit that that list would probably include a lot more things like Moby Dick and An Unkindness of Ghosts. But no, what I'm doing today is just the books that I loved, that made me enjoy reading them, that made me want to pick them up and reread them over again, and that I know I will reread in the future when I'm looking for comfort. And are all these new books? No, of course not. I don't read shit when they first come out. These are just the things I happen to have read earlier this year. Now, to our list. We're starting with number 5, which is the most recently read one, The Wizard Hunters by Martha Wells. This book really hit the sweet spot for me of being a light, quick read, while also being good enough that I didn't feel stupid for enjoying it. It has an old school kind of fantasy feel, and that is really escapist and adventure mode. The characters are interesting, the worlds are well painted and evocative, the conflict is a simple good guys fighting mysterious evil kind of conflict, which means that you don't have to think too deeply about people's motivations. It's a fun book, which I will admit is weird because it actually starts with the main character researching how to end her own life. So, spoiler warning there. But this is part Gaslamp fantasy, part a war story, part Middle Ages fantasy. I really suggest this book to anyone who reads fantasy specifically for immersive escapism, with just enough cathartic emotions to make you feel like you've made it through something by the end. Number 4 is The Lost Dreamer by Liz Huerta. This book I keep thinking of as soft. It's set in a kind world with kind characters who help and care about each other. It does have villains and it does have conflict, and they are not empathetic characters, but they are believable characters. And this is one of those books that it doesn't feel like our good characters are the only light in the darkness. They exist in a world that is mostly kind, and I loved that. It's a book that's also very female-centered, and it's about females' relationships to other girls and women. And it's set in a fantasy world that is pre-Columbian Mesoamerican civilization-ish, which I really loved because I haven't read that much in those kind of worlds. It's beautifully painted, and it felt very colorful and new and novel. I'd recommend this book to anyone looking for female-centric fantasy in a light, colorful world that feels welcoming to the reader. Number 3 is Flora Segunda by Isabel Wells. This is another book that actually touches on Mesoamerican world building. This world also mixes in some sort of pseudo-vaguely Victorian, vaguely European world building elements. It's a young adult fantasy novel, though I'm not honestly sure what age range is its target audience. I loved it for its complex, interesting world, its surprisingly competent, though highly flawed teenage characters. It's got this odd juxtaposition between a light, childlike tone and flashes of serious violence and serious themes. I've read book 2 now as well, and I still want to know more about the world. I would recommend this book to anyone who enjoys young adult books for their quick, hopeful tone, but also wants a book with real danger and characters who feel like they're actually capable of fighting through that danger. Number 2 is His Majesty's Dragon by Naomi Novik. This book features dragons, which is an easy way to get me interested in any book, and it's set during the Napoleonic War, which is a time period I've read pretty much nothing in. And those two odd, contradictory elements work together insanely well. The book does an amazing job of fitting fantasy elements into real-world history without it feeling like it's tacked on or just splashed over it. Also, this book does the best job I've ever seen of walking the really difficult line between managing a period tone without being boring, confusing, or downright offensive to modern readers. Though I will warn you, I have now read 2 of the others, and I don't feel like they accomplished that particular task as well as the first one does. But objectively, why do I like this book? The characters. I love the 2 main characters, Captain Lawrence and his dragon, Timeraire. Their friendship is the core of this book, and it is what will keep me reading through the entire series of books. I recommend this book to anyone who likes period war novels, but also dragons. Also, I recommend it to anyone who likes books that center friendship and characters growing beyond their narrow worldviews. And number 1 on my list of favorite books I've read this year so far is Before We Disappear by Sean David Hutchinson. This book made me squee. I loved every second of it. I struggled to put it down. It centers around 2 different magicians' assistants who are both working for magicians who are attempting to be the best at the 1909 Seattle World's Fair. But rather than being enemies, the 2 assistants, Jack and Will, fall in love with each other. And it's the sweetest relationship I've ever read seen in any kind of media in years. The author really takes the time to develop the relationship. We get to see them fall in love, while also not sacrificing any of the drama we need for the progressing fantasy story, or the details that build the world the 2 characters meet in. The characters are playful, flawed, dashing, and fun. The writing is quick and easy to enjoy, and the story has just the right level of stakes. It's a young adult novel, but I would suggest it to anyone who enjoys fantasy featuring love stories, especially anyone who's looking for period queer romance that doesn't center on difficulties of being gay in those times and places. This book is overall happy, and I want you to read it and to be happy too. So those are my 5 favorite books I've read so far this year-ish. I've done full reviews of all of these books, which you can check out on the rest of my YouTube, and I will have linked in the description below. Be sure to check them out if you want to know a bit more about each book, though I will warn you, like most reviews, there will be spoilers if you watch the full review video. Feel free to tell me your own opinions about these books, or for that matter, what your favorite reads of this year so far have been. And if you're curious about what else I've read this year and what I'm going to continue reading this year, subscribe, and you can check out the playlist of Because I Have Opinions. Thanks for watching!